what you guys did, you should have your own chart that you've started based on the story. And the chart that I have right now is the one that you probably made a copy of. But what I want you to do, if you can split your screens, you can take your copy and leave it there, and maybe do another copy, kind of like what I'm doing now. Just make it separate and pull it over. I still want you to be able to see both copies. So, because if you have something typed in, I want you to be able to copy and paste. In other words, if you were to click on your copy, all right, I just made a word thing. So like, I want you to fill in the blanks. So of my copy. So everybody log on to the WITS copy of SWBST chart. So if I was to type in Christine Orgon, and it's not letting me do it. All I would have to do is let's see.
This is for the Franklin SWSPT?
Say it again.
Is this for the Franklin SWSPT?
No. This is the Christine Organ. This is the article we were just working on. So I want us to do it together, kind of, and we'll finish it that way. So you guys get the break. So other people don't. How about that? And what you'll end up doing, you'll end up making a copy, or actually you'll end up copying mine. I guess that's a good way to put it. The regular SBST chart. So what I'm doing, if you've already filled in and you can see your screen right now, the Zoom, you can see me making a highlighted Christine Organ. I'm making a copy, and then all you have to do to fill in this is put your answers in, is to do the same thing. So I'm going to go over here and then hit paste, and there it is. So that's our main character. So if you have both of them up, I'm going to take mine off. I don't want people at home to be able to do this. But if you've already been working on it and have something, that's just the way to do it. Come on. Delete. There we go. And then since I've made you editors a WITS copy of SWBST, you should be able to do anything to it. So at this point, so I'm going to raise it back up. So I'm going to talk about it, and I need to pull up the article again. So my split screen is going to be the article. Kind of. Oh, it's just too small. Or yeah, that'll work. All right, so what does she want to do? Okay. Define success. All right, so that's what she wanted to do. So y'all help me out here. I don't want to be the only one typing on this thing. So anything else that she wants to do?
She also wants to, or as she talks about it, she wants to see herself as successful.
Oh, okay. So we can have a couple of things in there. So I'm gonna put number 1. So type that. Put the box in there. Why can't I do that? It's not allowing me to do what I want to do. Mine is going nuts. That's number 1, define success. So redefine success as a state of mind. So that's a solution to the problem. Who's picked? That's you, isn't it, Kim? All right, so is there anything else she wants to do? That was you, solution? Okay, yeah, I can't see the the little picture on that thing. It's pretty tiny on my screen. All right, so do you have it? Because you just said what else that you want to do, and that would be like number 2 in there. So not just define success. So what you'll end up doing is going over to the text box, clicking on that. Oh, you already got it. Oh no, I'm off of it. There. All right. She wants to view herself success, or she wants to view herself as successful. All right, and we all do, right? I mean, that's what part of what we do. What's our problem right now? What's the overall problem? And probably the same problem is good for both of those up there. Defining success. You know, what's the problem with defining success? What's the problem with she wants to see her success, wants to see or be viewed as successful? What's the overall problem?
I think that for everyone, when they think of success, they go very like stereotypically, and for the most part, if you think that way, you won't probably see yourself as
So,
successful. Even
right.
people now who are filthy rich probably, they want more.
Okay, so if we define right, I just totally lost that. If the measure of our success is a cliche, or what you just said it. I'm just trying to fish it back out. Stereotypical. Thank you. If it's stereotypical, who defines that?
Us.
Everybody, right? So, I mean, it's like someone else defining you for who you are. You like, I've achieved this, I've become successful, and then someone goes, no, you haven't, because you haven't reached this plateau. Someone else is defining it for you. That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem, Christine says it here. Let's see. Here we go. But all of these measures, intrinsic, so outward, inside, extrinsic, outside, are ever changing, undefinable, or fleeting. So even the measure that we have, all right, so, oh, she looks beautiful. Look at her. Look at that figure. She's great. That's a measure of success if you can achieve that. But then now someone has changed that up and says, no, that's not a measure of success. Measure of success is how well that person carries himself no matter what they look like. Okay, so now that definition has changed. So that's our problem. The problem is we can't define success because, one, it's ever changing according to Oregon, but also according to what we have said in remember our 5 people that we chose, and then we chose one? Everybody chose pretty much a different person. That means everybody has a different definition of success. So success is perceptive. Success really depends on who you are. Your definition of success is not the same as Brendan's, right? It can't be. I mean, it can be, but the reality is it's not. If I was the richest person in the world, or close to it, I don't know who it is right now, actually. I know that there's a couple people, Jeff Bezos is pretty, I mean, his wife made the list for.
Yeah, because they got a divorce and she got a whole bunch of money for it.
Yeah.
Really funny.
And now she's getting married to a teacher.
Really?
Yes. Not me. I'm married already. So, but the two richest people in the world will define success differently than from each other. The 2 poorest people in the world will define success differently. You can be poor and still be successful because we define it so many different ways. So that's our problem. If it's ever changing, undefinable, fleeting, and I'm going to add that it's individual. I mean, it's an individual thing. We can't define success as a general thing because everybody defines success differently. I think that's something that should be considered. Okay, so but because we're keeping with the story, we're keeping with the chart, success has to be, the problem has to be this here. It's ever-changing, undefinable, or fleeting. So I can do this real quick. And this is just the Christine quote. See what people think of as the definition of success. Go ahead and finish that one. I'm going to go ahead and put my answer in there from her because that's what I do. Right? There we go. That was pretty easy, right? Okay, so so that's the problem. So what's the solution? And, you know, she goes ahead and kind of talks about what I was talking about too. Perhaps the measures of success aren't the problem. It's our definition of success that's the problem. I kind of like that too. So maybe that's a two-part thing, according to her. But then that goes back to our perception of how we define, how you define it, how you define it, how I define it, how Mr. Marr defines it. So if I can get people halfway interested in the stuff that I'm dealing out here, which is pretty difficult since it's a core class and it's a class you have to have. It's not like you signed up for, oh my goodness, I want to go have that class. I want that class. Put me in that class, because that's not the truth. That's not the reality, right? If I get you guys to at least think half the time, literally think, hey, look, that's worth it. Oh, I get it now. And I know we're not going to get the whole thing because there's a whole lot more boring stuff in here than just whatever. And I told you the goal of my class is to be able for you guys after you graduate to make good decisions based on your experiences, and this gives you some of the experiences other people, other authors have. So that's the whole purpose. There are some other things in there too, but somebody's playing with the lasers. So which is okay. All right. So what is the solution though? So her solution is this. Understanding that success moves beyond something we strive to attain and becomes something we can live every day. Success is not a victory result, but a perpetual state of mind. It's understanding that the definition of success is changeable. So we kind of answer it with the problem, but for this story, there's no final resolution as we see it. It's just that. Let me do that. Success is not a victory result. It's understanding that it's not it's a perpetual state of mind, ever changing, perpetual, ever changing. So do here, and then paste, and then I didn't put the quotes. I probably should put the quotes in there, the quotation marks, because that makes it whatever. I've lost my cursor. There we go. And then understanding that, there we go, success. Robert wants to play Space Invaders. Or is that Asteroids? You ever played Asteroids? You know what I'm talking about?
I played
Space
Space Invaders.
Invaders, that Asteroids is tough. It's an old Atari game. So you just try it. All right. So what's the final resolution? We got a solution. What's the final resolution? And she puts it at the very end. By those definitions, success moves beyond something. So I'm going to copy that. Text box. Boom. Boom. Now, honestly, I don't think there is a final resolution to the definitions of success. I think we'll be hard pressed to come up with it. I really do. Because when you leave high school, you've completed, you've succeeded. That's success. But what's the next venture? You know, where do you go from there? So you set new goals. You set new things. Franklin, I'll go ahead and tell you, he wasn't trying to define success. He was trying to define moral perfection. He wanted to become morally perfect. And in his quest to do that, he kind of helps us understand what success is. Success is not becoming morally perfect. Success is the attempt. I'm willing to do it, even if I fail. And then what do you learn from it? He learned from it. He said he was happy with the process. So I think it's ironic that he he did this when he was in his 20s and ended up having an illegitimate child before wedlock. That's bad for people who are very religious during that time period. Imagine that. And then he had some reported affairs while he was in France. As an older guy. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. In order to submit your assignment, you can make your own copy of this one and use that link. But what I would do is that other one that you were working on, take some of the stuff from this and put it on that, and then you can submit that for your link. We have 30 minutes of class left. And what else did I have for us today? I want to say that was. You think that's it?
I think you're wrong.
Apparently, people, well, not necessarily people from France, but people in Europe who speak French are like jerks. Because my dad's Mormon, so when he was like 18, he spent 2 years in Holland as like on a mission.
Uh-huh.
And in Holland, there are people who speak Dutch and there are people who speak French. Football with you Dutch speakers, and then when I was like, "You're from Utah. We went to the same church," and he's like, "Oh." So it's just, I don't know why they just think they're better. I guess.
You know, that's I mean, you look at some of the prejudices and things that we have today that you would think we wouldn't have, and I mean it's unfortunate. And then prejudice comes in all sorts of forms and fashions. And it's not just about, here's the arrogance of our time. Okay, and this is my personal opinion. I can't believe that we are so arrogant that we define racism as a black and white issue.
That's for everyone.
You know, I mean, there are many forms of racism, and there's many forms of prejudices as well, and it's just that one seems to be highlighted more so than another, and I think that kind of gets us into trouble. And I mean, I personally don't understand it. I grew up, I guess, on the wrong side of the tracks. So my friends were, I mean, we were pretty much multiracial. I joke around with my wife when people talk about, people talk about the commercials on TV now being mixed race, and I mean it's really, I mean, notice the commercials that are on TV if you have opportunities to do that. They've certainly changed. We're not strictly what we would call the white society that people perceive us to be, and the commercials are actually doing that. So there's mixed races, mixed folks, different things, and I see that. But I look at my wife and it says, I have news for you. Just based on where I'm from and how I grew up, So I hope you don't know, if you don't know this already, you should know it now. I am not of one race.
I mean, these days, things that seemed innocent way back then are now being, getting rid of and canceled out.
What about Dr. Seuss?
Yeah.
I mean, that in my opinion is BS. I mean, red fish, blue fish,
Well,
white fish, two fish. That seems diverse to me.
Oh,
Well, I think it's I mean, I don't want to really get into it. I'm a son of Adam, and if as far as my religious views dictate how I think about people and things, and that's just my personal point of view. But like I said, I tell people I'm a son of Adam, and when people really want to, if I really want to be taken seriously, well, I mean, maybe it's not. I tell them, all right, I have a father, I have a dad, but I also have a father who's Jewish in nature. I mean, he's Jewish. You know, my father is Jewish. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, because I come from a Caucasian family. You know, I am British. You know, my ancestry is Scottish and I wouldn't say British. That's the wrong. Great Britain, English. So Scott English. There's a little bit Irish in me, and honestly, there's probably a few other things in me too, given the state of my family back then, and I haven't researched it. But in my religious beliefs, I tell people my father is Jewish. We were and his race was the most enslaved race and persecuted. You know, Germany tried to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth.
Sadly, there's 6 million Jews today in the Holocaust.
Quite a few. All right. So anyway, that's just way off the mark. I saw something funny the other day too. Somebody talking about it wasn't Dr. Seuss. It was Pepe Le Pew talking about. I don't know if it was a Facebook. I saw it on Twitter. The person wrote, I am so glad that they made that decision to do that. My child is safer now that he can, or wait a minute, let me find it. Hang on. I'm not going to say, this is funny, but it's the point what we're, I'll get it. Hang on. Give me a second. Where is it? It's not coming up. What happened to my cursor? What happened to my cursor? All right, there he is. All right, it's not coming up. You really like that laser pointer, don't you?
That's interesting. 23 brain cells are pretty stupid.
Oh, okay, there it is. Of course, I'm scrolling. All right, so it says this. This person writes back, goodbye, Pepe Le Pew. Here's why longtime Looney Tunes characters are canceled, or something like that. And then somebody responded to it. I'm glad he's canceled, and my children are safe. Now my son can get back to playing Grand Theft Auto, where he just set a hooker on fire so he didn't have to pay her. I mean, but you think about it, right? So our morals, our virtues, Ben Franklin. We have change. So another question I asked the last class, or and this is something hopefully I remember to ask you guys in next week when we get to it, because it still deals with this, because we're doing compare and contrast. How much have our morals changed over the last 200, 300 years since Ben Franklin? Are we the same? Are we the same as Ben Franklin, or have our morals changed? Have our values changed? And so that's a pretty big question when you look at how Franklin is assessing himself and how Organ is assessing herself. Then that's 21st century versus 18th century. You know, that assessment. At what point do we allow, or at what point have we allowed our values not to be as important as what our appearance would be? So we've thrown out values in favor of appearance. Now, I know that there are some things that are wrong. Racially motivated rage, racially motivated prejudices, that's wrong, obviously. But what about all these other things? We're supposed to learn from history, not erase history. Because once history's erased, like, oh, we seriously did that? Are you kidding me? That was so stupid.
Let's not do it again.
All right, so let's make sure we don't do it again, but don't erase it, because then we forget it.
It's kind of like with slavery, how people want to try to get rid of it. When I was in 8th grade, I was told we were given a live example. We were a PVC square, kind of like a cube, and packed us. It was about from here to here, from this tall and kind of the same. It was like square.
Okay.
And packed about 50 of us in there. And it was tight, and Dad's like, hey, this is what it would have felt like if you were a slave being transported to be sold.
Someone did that to you? I guess that's a pretty big visual.
I mean,
Short Lynn,
What?
7th grade, she did that to us. She had a bunch of
why
pipes.
is this for Gwen Frey's great? I mean, she's a good teacher.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
7th grade, she did that.
Very emotional, but very good.
Yeah, there was a kid named Wayne who he had like an ankle bracelet on. And one day, this is probably.
I'm assuming it wasn't gold or anything like that, right?
Yeah. And this is probably the most trouble I ever got in that class, but because I never really get in trouble, but it started going off because he never charged it, so it started going off saying it needed to charge. And then Miss Burgoyne goes, "What does that mean?" I go, and I said, "He hit 10,000 steps today." Like a fit kid. And I thought it was kind of funny. He laughed, everyone laughed, and then she didn't find it that funny.
No.
I thought it was funny. She failed the CDT more than that.
I mean,
Well, because-
if I didn't get in trouble with 8th grade, I would have actually talked to class about being on the one. That's how cool she was.
We got pushed into a cattle car. And when I was in the Navy, it was boot camp, and they had to transport us to
You got pushed into a what?
a cattle car. We called them cattle cars.
Oh.
So, but it was literally, it was behind a big rig and tractor trailer, and we step up in there. There was no seats, but there was platforms above the wheels and the axles and stuff. And we literally had to stand. We were like this with each other. I mean, like, and some of us were kind of like this or like this, because if we did this, then somebody was a little close, you know what I mean? I mean, we were packed in there. I think it was only meant to hold 50. We had 75 or 80. So, I mean, which was, it's tight. So, but that's how they transported us. It was terrible. But I get it. That's what that thing reminded me of. We really messed up bad by not doing away with slavery. And there are a lot of people who say, well, that wasn't me, you know, and I shouldn't be held accountable. But you know, we just have to realize that people still feel that even though they're not slaves, that they are. I mean, it's still a big hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be a Jewish person going to Germany at all, because that hurt is still there.
Right.
Actually, kind of like after we dropped the bombs on Japan on August 6th and August 9th, I mean, there's still some, not companies, but stores that don't allow American tourists due to the store owners having family ties to during World War II time.
Yeah.
And there's still birth defects due to all the radiation that was caused from the nuclear fallout.
It's really sad that how we really don't work together. There's a lot of there's writers, science fiction writers, who kind of bring that to light sometimes too, and where we can work together and show that we can work together, and you just kind of wonder. I mean, that sounds utopian, but what is it that makes us hate people so much? What is it? I mean, if we answered that, then we could probably do away with the racism, right?
Religion is a big thing.
Is it?
Religion, what we were taught as morals and our beliefs and our
It shouldn't be, but it is.
I know it's true, but I keep thinking about even for the Christian religion, because that's the only one I'm real familiar with, right? So we have people who represent the Christian religion that should not be representing the Christian religion. You're like, wait a minute, what's your model? You're talking about where they hate all these other people. So in the Christian religion, even the ones who say that they're Christian,
Yeah.
their God, Jesus, Son of God, he set the example. He didn't say, let's not go here because they're different. What's a good way to put it? Basically, even with his persecutors, which was his own people, really, he kept his mouth shut, and you know, when they were asking him questions, even when the Romans were asking him, he just, and that was during the torture. So, but he went to places that you really wouldn't go, and he even gave a parable of that type of the kindness that he expected people to show. The Samaritan,
Right.
the Good Samaritan, who hates Jews. Supposedly the Samaritans hate Jews. But there was one on the side of the road that was robbed, beaten, injured, that he helped. So, I mean, so that's why I just don't understand how do we get this far? And what is it that, and I think, again, it goes back to how we perceive things and how we can be closed-minded. Even if going back to literature, even how we look at literature, we refuse to look at other perspectives. Keep in mind, we still have our perspective. We have to look that way. But we can't be unbendable. We have to be willing to, all right, I can see that, and if it's wrong, say it's wrong, but I don't know, I'm going too far. All right, so you guys, for the next assignment, it's just questions on this organ thing. That's all it was. So you got me off track. So we'll work on those. There's 8, 9 questions, I think. but it's questions on the article, kind of like this, everything's exactly the same way we've done with Franklin. The questions are a little bit different. You'll define 2 words and not 3. The only word I did not define for you today was paradigm. So think about that. And then there's just some questions. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the Zoom.